So what we're going to do in this lesson is prepare our files for uploading. And we're going to do this via the FormData object. Now, if you've already taken the JavaScript DOM course in this JavaScript series, you'll have also experienced this already. So this should be knowledge that we've covered already. If not, we're going to cover it, of course, as we go along. Now, our file upload function, which we've got defined down here, after we've shown each file preview, we're then going to call a function called upload files, which of course is then going to pass in all of our files to upload. So at the moment, we are showing the file previews. Of course, we can drag stuff in and then see the preview images. However, of course, we're not going to do things such as error handling and then removing the image thumbnails if, for example, the upload was to fail. But what we are going to do is build out some further examples. So our upload files is going to be the last function that we'll create. And this is going to be where we're going to construct the FormData object. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. And then we're going to make a fetch post request and post it off to a Node.js server, which I've already created for us. So we can say const form equals new form data. And essentially what we're going to do, because we have this file list that we want to then upload, we've filtered out any file types which are not allowed. We then show the file previews. We then pass it off to go and be uploaded. We need to now add those images or those files to our FormData object. So using some more functional style, again, we could use the spread operator and use an array for each. This then gives us each individual file, and we can just simply call form.append. So you can see that we have this FormData.append, which takes the name and then the value, which can be a string or a blob. We can then call form.append. Now what we need to do is two things. First, we need to set the name, and then we need to set the value. So this will just be a name of the key. So for this, all I'm going to use is the file name as the key. And we'll have a look at how this actually pans out in a moment. And then the value is just simply going to be that individual file itself. So after our operation has completed, we then have a FormData object. So we can take both of these images, drag them in, let go. You can see we have FormData. Now FormData is a strange one because it doesn't give us the readability straight out of the box. So we need to actually look at this. You can see here we have this symbol.iterator and this entries. So what we could do is say form.entries, which again doesn't really give us too much information. Let's just have a look. Here you can see that we have this iterator. But if we want to then create a new array, I know this feels quite strange and long-winded, but this is how we can inspect what is inside our FormData object. So you can see by spreading those entries into a new array, we then have access to what's inside. So you can see that we have a multi-dimensional array, an array within an array. The first element in the array is the file name, and then the second element in each array is then the file object itself. So what we would then do is then pass this entire FormData object off to the server, and this gets passed off as a multi-part type when we inspect things in the network. Now this allows us to just inspect what is actually going through. We don't actually need this when we momentarily start making fetch requests. So that's it for this video. We just talked about how the flow is working here, how to create a new FormData object, and typically we might actually pass some data into the FormData. You can see here that it expects a form, which is using the question mark here, so it's completely optional. But what it would do is provide key value pairs based on our form fields. So essentially it's serializing the data. But if we want to just create a new empty FormData object, we can then go and manually append information that we want to ourselves. So that's it for this lesson. This is a nice little primer on using FormData, and this is typically what we would do after we've dragged some images in. We're then prepping them for when we want to post this FormData object off to a real server, which we're going to cover in the next lesson.